Shadows of sacrifice, the hospital corridor seemed endless as Nisha Sharma paced back and forth, the antiseptic smell burning her nostrils. Her mother's heart surgery had been successful, but the bills had nearly bankrupted their already struggling family. 23 years old, with an incomplete degree in literature, Nisha had exhausted every option: extra shifts at the bookstore, tutoring neighborhood children, even selling her precious collection of classical novels. "Nisha, please sit down," her father whispered, his once proud shoulders now permanently stooped. "The doctor will be here soon." She nodded, sinking into the plastic chair beside him. The weight of their financial burden pressed down on her chest, making it difficult to breathe. 3 months of hospital stays, specialized treatments, medications had depleted their savings and maxed out their credit. Uncle Prakash approached, his usual boisterous demeanor subdued. "I need to speak with you," he said, pulling her aside. "I may have found a solution." Hope flickered briefly in Nisha's chest. "Alone? Did the bank reconsider?" "Not exactly." He avoided her eyes. "Do you remember Vikram Malhotra, the businessman who bought the old textile factory?" She nodded slowly. Everyone in their small town knew of him, the reclusive millionaire who had transformed a failing business into a thriving enterprise, but rarely appeared in public. "He's looking for a companion, someone to stay at his estate." Prakash's voice dropped to a whisper. "He's willing to pay off your mother's medical bills, all of them." The implication hung in the air between them. Nisha stepped back, her stomach churning. "You want to sell me? Like some medieval bride price?" No, nothing like that," Prakash insisted, though his shifty gaze betrayed him. "It's just companionship. Conversation. He's a lonely man, Nisha. Just 6 months. That's all he's asking for." "This is insane," she hissed, noticing her father approaching. "I won't do it." But later that night, as she watched her mother struggling to breathe in the hospital bed, the monitors beeping ominously, the doctor pulled them aside. "She needs specialized medication for at least a year. Without it, ... He left the sentence unfinished, but the message was clear. 3 days later, Nisha found herself standing before imposing Rotterdam gates, clutching a small suitcase containing her few belongings. The agreement had been formalized with clinical precision. Her presence for 6 months in exchange for covering all medical expenses and a small stipend for her family's living costs. Rain began to fall as the gates swung open, revealing a winding driveway lined with towering cypress trees. A sleek black car waited, the driver expressionless as he took her suitcase. "Mr. Malhotra is expecting you," he said, opening the rear door as the car moved forward. Nisha caught her reflection in the window pale, frightened yet determined. She wasn't naive. She understood what men typically wanted when they purchased a woman's time. But if enduring this arrangement meant her mother would live, she would find the strength somehow. The mansion appeared through the curtain of rain. A massive stone structure with Gothic architecture and ivy-covered walls. It looked like it belonged in a Victorian novel, beautiful but forbidding. Much like what she imagined its owner would be. The car stopped. The driver opened her door, and there on the steps stood Vikram Malhotra, himself tall, impeccably dressed. Sharp features and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Welcome to Ravenscroft, Miss Sharma," he said, his voice unexpectedly gentle despite his imposing presence. "Please come inside before you catch cold." Stepping over the threshold, Nisha felt as though she were crossing more than just a physical boundary. She was stepping into a new chapter of her life, one where she had traded her freedom for her mother's life. The heavy door closed behind her with a sound of finality. Silent mansion, the first week at Ravenscroft, passed in a blur of awkward silences and unexpected luxuries. Nisha's room, a spacious chamber with bay windows overlooking the immaculately kept gardens, contained more comforts than she had experienced in her entire life. Four-poster bed with silk sheets, a private bathroom with a clawfoot tub, and bookshelves lined with first editions that would make any literature student weep with joy, yet the grandeur did little to ease her discomfort. Vikram Malhotra remained an enigma, appearing only at dinner, where he would inquire politely about her day before retreating to his study. Their conversations were painfully formal, never straying beyond superficial pleasantries. "Is there anything you need, Miss Sharma?" he would ask each evening, his expression inscrutable. "No, thank you, Mr. Malhotra," she would reply, unable to meet his intense gaze. Mrs. Desai, the elderly housekeeper with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes, became Nisha's only true companion. While dusting the library shelves one afternoon, she offered her first piece of real insight. "He wasn't always this way, you know," she said, carefully polishing a crystal paperweight. "There was a time when this house was filled with laughter." "What happened?" Nisha asked, looking up from the worn copy of Jane Eyre she'd been reading, finding uncomfortable parallels between her situation, the classic novel. Mrs. Desai's lips tightened. "It's not my place to say, child, but pain changes people. Sometimes it turns them to stone." By the second week, Nisha had established a routine. Mornings spent in the greenhouse, helping the gardener, Mr. Kapoor, tend to exotic plants. Afternoons in the library, losing herself in literature. Evenings dining with her silent host, followed by solitude in her room until one night, when she first heard it, the haunting melody that drifted through the halls like a ghost. Following the sound, she discovered a room she hadn't noticed before. The door was ajar, and through the crack, she saw Vikram standing by a grand window, violin in hand. Playing with such raw emotion, it made her breath catch. She retreated before he could notice her, but the music followed her into her dreams' melancholy. It's beautiful and filled with longing. The following day, a letter arrived from home. Her mother was improving, the new medications working wonders. But between the grateful lines, Nisha read her father's unspoken plea. "We need more. The mortgage is due. Your brother's university fees are pending." That evening at dinner, she gathered her courage. "Mr. Malhotra, I was wondering, what exactly are my duties here? I feel as though I'm merely taking up space." He looked startled, as if he'd forgotten she was capable of initiating conversation. "You're fulfilling your part of our arrangement simply by being here, Miss Sharma. That seems insufficient. There's something I could do to earn my keep more actively?" A shadow crossed his face. "Your uncle presented your situation as desperate. I merely offered a solution that preserved your dignity while solving your family's financial problems." He set down his fork. "Unless you'd prefer a different arrangement?" The implication made her cheeks burn. "No, I feel useless." Something softened in his expression. "If you wish for occupation, perhaps you could help organize the library." "It was my mother's pride, but it's fallen into disarray since her passing." Nisha nodded eagerly. "I'd like that very much." For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. Then it settled. The library project gave Nisha purpose, but also insights into the mysterious man who had essentially purchased her time. The books revealed a person of depth and sensitivity, volumes of poetry, philosophy, and literature far outnumbered the business and finance sections. One rainy afternoon, as she catalogued a collection of musical biographies, Vikram appeared unexpectedly. He watched her work for several moments before speaking. "You've brought order to chaos," he observed, surveying her meticulous system. "I've always found peace in organizing books," she replied, less intimidated than she would have been weeks earlier. "It's like arranging conversations between souls." Across time, something flickered in his eyes, surprise perhaps, or recognition, an unusual perspective. "My mother always said I had an old soul." Nisha hesitated, then added, "She's doing much better now, thanks to your generosity." His expression closed immediately. "I'm glad to hear it. But please don't mistake business for benevolence, Miss Sharma." As he turned to leave, Nisha called after him. "I hear you playing at night. The violin. It's beautiful." He froze, one hand on the doorframe. Without turning, he said, "I apologize if it disturbs your rest." "It doesn't disturb me. It's just ... She searched for the right words. "It sounds like you're looking for something in the music, something you've lost." The silence stretched between them, taut as a violin string. Finally, he spoke so quietly she barely heard him. "Some things, once lost, can never be found again." He was gone, leaving Nisha with the distinct impression that she had glimpsed beneath the stone exterior to something wounded and raw beneath. That night, the violin remained silent. Somehow, the silence felt even more desolate than the sorrowful. Melodies in darkness. The storm came without warning. Black clouds rolled in from the mountains, bringing sheets of rain that lashed against the windows like angry spirits seeking entry. By evening, the power had failed, plunging Ravenscroft into darkness broken only by candlelight and the occasional flash of lightning. Nisha sat in her room, wrapped in a blanket, watching the tempest rage outside. 3 months had passed since her arrival, 3 months of careful observation, of piecing together the puzzle that was Vikram Malhotra. She had learned to read his moods, to recognize the subtle shifts in his expression that signaled approval or displeasure. Yet he remained fundamentally unknowable, a locked room to which she had no key. A particularly violent thunderclap made her jump. Then, through the storm's fury, she heard at the violin, playing that same haunting melody. But tonight it sounded different, desperate, almost like a cry for help, without conscious decision. Nisha found herself moving through the darkened hallways, a single candle guiding her path. The music grew louder as she approached the room she now knew was his private sanctuary. The door stood open, whether by intent or accident she couldn't tell. Vikram stood silhouetted against the floor-to-ceiling windows, the lightning illuminating him in brief, stark flashes. His tall frame seemed bent, as though carrying an invisible burden. The violin sang beneath his expert fingers, but the sound was raw, almost savage in its grief. "Why do you always play that same piece?" Nisha asked softly, her voice barely audible. Above the storm, he didn't startle or turn. For a moment, she thought he hadn't heard her. Then the music stopped, and in the sudden silence, his voice seemed to come from very far away, because it's the only thing that reminds me I'm still capable of feeling something. Lightning flashed again, revealing his face no longer impassive but naked with an emotion so intense it took her breath away.
"Oh, who was she?"
Nisha asked, somehow knowing instinctively that a woman was at the heart of his pain. Vikram placed the violin carefully in its case before answering. "Her name was Radha. We were to be married." His laugh held no humor. I was nobody then, a young man with ambition, but no fortune, no connections. Her father disapproved, but she swore she didn't care about money. He moved to a small table and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid, offering one to Nisha. She accepted it, though she rarely drank. "Let me guess," she said quietly. "She left when something better came along." "Not quite." He took a long swallow. "I worked day and night to build something worthy of her. Started my first successful business. Bought a small but respectable house. The night I planned to surprise her with it, I found her with Arnav Singhanias, son of the richest man in the district." His voice hardened. She wasn't forced. She made her choice. Status over love, security over passion. Nisha watched the candlelight play across his features. "And so you built all this." She gestured to encompass the mansion, to prove her wrong. "To prove myself right," he corrected. "That I was worthy after all. Foolish, isn't it? Building an empire for someone who will never see it." The vulnerability in his admission touched something deep within Nisha. "Is that why I'm here? Another acquisition to prove your worth?" His eyes snapped to hers, suddenly fierce. "You think I brought you here for my ego? Or worse, for my pleasure? Why else would a man like you agree to such an arrangement?" She challenged, emboldened by the darkness and the strange intimacy of the moment. Vikram moved closer, close enough that she could see the storm reflected in his eyes. "Your uncle came to me with a proposition, an attractive young woman in need, willing to do whatever necessary to save her family. Do you know what kind of men he approached before me, Nisha? Men who wouldn't have given you a separate room? Men who wouldn't have honored any boundaries?" Horror crept up her spine as his words sank in. "You mean he was selling you to the highest bidder?" Vikram finished bluntly. "I didn't buy you, Nisha. I saved you from being bought." The glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Neither of them moved to clean it up. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. "Would it have made your situation any less humiliating?" To know your own blood was shopping you around like merchandise? His voice softened. I thought giving you space, privacy, and dignity was kinder than the truth. Tears welled in Nisha's eyes. Not for herself, but for this man who had protected a stranger while nursing his own wounds in private. The music, she said, changing the subject to give herself time to process this revelation. What is it called? A sad smile touched his lips. I don't know. I composed it myself. The night everything fell apart, I've never written it down. Never. Played it for anyone else. Till me, Nisha said. Thunder rumbled, more distant now, as the storm began to move away. In its wake, a different kind of electricity filled the air between them. Until you, he agreed, and somehow those two words felt like the beginning of something neither of them had anticipated. Broken Wall Spring arrived at Ravenscroft, transforming the austere grounds into a riot of color. Cherry blossoms carpeted the pathways with delicate pink petals. The air smelled of renewal and possibility. Since the night of the storm, something fundamental had shifted between Nisha and Vikram. The formal boundaries remained. He still addressed her as Miss Sharma in company, but a new understanding colored their interactions. Dinners were no longer silent affairs, but opportunities for conversation that ranged from literature to philosophy to their childhoods. Did you always want to be a businessman? Nisha asked one evening as they shared tea in the conservatory. Surrounded by orchids, Vikram's mouth quirked in that almost smile she had come to cherish. Hardly. I wanted to be a musician. Our father had other ideas. Yet you still play. Only for myself. He paused. And now, occasionally for you. The admission hung between them. Freighted with meaning, neither was ready to acknowledge. Mr. Kapoor found them in the garden the following afternoon. Nisha helping Vikram prune roses, an activity he claimed was therapeutic. Phone call for Miss Sharma, the gardener announced. Your father, Miss. He says it's urgent. Anxiety immediately knotted Nisha's stomach. She hurried to the study, aware of Vikram's concerned gaze following her. Her father's voice crackled over the line, heavy with desperation. Nisha, we need more money. Your mother's medication has been increased, and Rohan's university is threatening. To expel him if the fees aren't paid by next week?
Ow.
But the arrangement with Mr. Malhotra covered mother's medical expenses, she said, confusion mixing with dread. A telling pause. Well, yes, but we've had other costs. Your uncle Prakash thought, perhaps you could persuade Mr. Malhotra to be more generous. Surely by now you've developed some influence over him? The implication turned her blood cold. What exactly are you suggesting, Papa? Don't be naive, Nisha, he snapped, sounding nothing like the gentle father she'd known. Women have certain advantages when dealing with wealthy men. Use them. She hung up without responding, tears of humiliation burning her eyes. Had her entire family seen her as nothing more than a commodity to be traded, a means to extract money from a wealthy man? Nisha? Vikram stood in the doorway, concern etched on his features. What's wrong? She couldn't bring herself to repeat her father's words. Instead, she asked, Did you pay my uncle a finder's fee for bringing me here? His expression darkened. He requested one. I refused. But you've been sending money to my family for my mother's treatments? As agreed, he stepped closer. Has something happened? The dam broke. Between sobs, Nisha revealed her father's request, watching as Vikram's face transformed from concern to cold fury. I'll double the medical fund, he said when she finished. But not a rupee more. I won't feed their avarice at your expense. Why do you care? She challenged, emotions raw and exposed. I'm just an obligation to you, a business transaction. In 2 strides, he crossed the room and took her hands in. His? Is that what you think? After all these months? The touch of his skin against hers sent electricity racing up her arms. I don't know what to think anymore about any of this. Then let me be clear, he said, his voice low and intense. You came here as an obligation. You've become. Struggled for words, a rare occurrence for the articulate businessman. Essential. Before she could process this declaration, Mrs. Desai appeared at the door. Sir, Mr. Prakash Sharma is at the gates, demanding to see his niece. Vikram's expression hardened. Let him in, It's time we settled this matter permanently. The confrontation was ugly. Uncle Prakash, clearly intoxicated, alternated between threatening to expose Vikram for taking advantage of Nisha and offering to arrange for a more accommodating girl if Nisha wasn't satisfying him. Enough, Vikram finally thundered, his patience exhausted. You sold your niece to save your own skin from creditors. I kept her safe from the predators you would have delivered her to. And now you have the audacity to demand more? Prakash sneered. Don't pretend you're some noble savior. Men like you only want one thing from girls like her. Men like me. Vikram's voice dropped dangerously. You know nothing about me. I know enough. I know about Radha Singh. How she left you for a real man. How you've been trying to prove yourself ever since. Prakash smirked, revealing he had researched Vikram's past. My niece is just another trophy to show you've arrived. Nisha stepped between them, fury replacing her earlier distress. Get out, she told her uncle. You have no right to speak to him that way. No right to speak to me. You used me, lied to me. And now you want to extort more money through me? Leave before I call the police. Prakash's face contorted with rage. You, ungrateful? Enough. Vikram's roar silenced the room. Mr. Sharma, you are trespassing. Leave now, or I will have you removed and charged. After Prakash was escorted out, hurling threats and obscenities, Nisha collapsed onto a sofa, emotionally drained. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I had no idea. Don't apologize for him, Vikram interrupted, sitting beside her. You are not responsible for his actions. You mentioned Radha, she said carefully. How did he know about her? A muscle worked in Vikram's jaw. He must have investigated me before approaching with his proposition, looking for vulnerabilities. He ran a hand through his usually immaculate hair. Nisha, there's something you should know. Our 6-month agreement ends next week. Her heart plummeted. Somehow she'd lost track of time, lulled into a sense of permanence that had no basis. In reality, of course, she managed, struggling to keep her voice steady. I'll begin packing. That's not what I meant, he cut in. I'm offering you a choice. You can leave with enough money to secure your family's needs for the foreseeable future, or... He hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. Or, she prompted, hardly daring to breathe, or you can stay. Not as part of any arrangement, not as an obligation, but because you want to. The unspoken hung between them feelings neither had fully acknowledged, possibilities neither had dared to contemplate. Before she could respond, the phone rang again. This time, it was the hospital. Her mother had suffered a relapse. She needed to come immediately. As Vikram ordered his driver to prepare the car, Nisha felt herself torn between two worlds, the family that had used her as currency, and the man who had given her value beyond price. I'll come with you, Vikram said, his tone brooking no argument. In that moment, as he helped her with her coat, their eyes met in the hallway mirror. No words were necessary. Whatever decision awaited her, she wouldn't face it alone. Rhythm of second chances, the hospital corridor was achingly familiar. The same antiseptic smell, the same fluorescent lights that cast everyone in a sickly pallor. But this time, Nisha didn't pace alone. Vikram stood beside her, a solid presence. In the shifting chaos of the emergency room, her mother lay unconscious, hooked to machines that beeped and hummed, measuring out her life in electronic pulses. The doctor's prognosis was guarded but hopeful with proper care and continued medication. Recovery was possible. We've arranged for a specialist, Vikram, informed the doctor, his tone making it clear that expense was no object. Nisha's father and brother arrived an hour later, their expressions shifting from concern to calculation when they spotted Vikram.
Mr.
Malhotra, her father said, extending his hand. We're grateful for everything you've done for our family. Vikram accepted the handshake with cool politeness. I did it for Nisha. The simple statement hung in the air, weighted with implications that made her father's smile falter. Over the next 3 days, as her mother's condition stabilized, Nisha observed the dynamics with new clarity. Her father and brother hovered around Vikram like satellites around a planet, alternately deferential and presumptuous. Her uncle Prakash kept his distance but sent messages through her, rather thinly veiled demands disguised as concern for her welfare. On the fourth day, as dawn broke over the city, Nisha sat alone beside her sleeping mother. The woman looked smaller, somehow more fragile than the strong matriarch Nisha remembered from childhood. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered, though she knew she couldn't be heard. "I wish I could have protected you without losing myself." "You haven't lost yourself," came a soft voice from the doorway. Her mother's eyes were open, alert for the first time in days. "You found your strength." Tears blurred Nisha's vision as she clasped her mother's hand. "You heard me? I hear more than people think." Her mother's voice was weak, but determined. "Your father told me what they did using you to secure money from that businessman?" She squeezed Nisha's hand with surprising strength. "It was wrong. Unforgivable." "You don't need to worry about that now," Nisha soothed. "Just focus on getting better." "No, I need to say this." Her mother struggled to sit up. "I've been silent too long, letting the men make decisions that harmed my daughter. No more." She fixed Nisha with a penetrating gaze. "This man, Vikram, he treats you well." Nisha nodded, unable to articulate the complex evolution of their relationship. "But not in the way your father and uncle intended," her mother stated rather than asked. "No, he's been ... honorable." A knowing smile touched her mother's lips, and more than that, I think. Before Nisha could respond, Vikram appeared with coffee, stopping short when he saw her mother awake. "Mrs. Sharma, forgive the intrusion." "Come back later." Stay, her mother commanded with surprising authority for someone so recently unconscious. "I want to thank the man who saved my daughter while I couldn't." Psst. Something passed between them in evaluation. An understanding before Vikram inclined his head in acknowledgement. Later that afternoon, Nisha stood in the hospital garden, breathing an air that wasn't filtered through antiseptic and fear. Vikram found her there, contemplating a bed of marigolds. "Your mother is remarkable," he said, standing beside her. "I see where you get your strength." Nisha smiled. "She wants me to go back to university? Finish my degree. A wise suggestion. She also thinks I should stop letting other people decide my fate." She turned to face him fully, "Including you." Surprise flickered across his features. "I never intended, I know," she interrupted gently. But our arrangement, well-intentioned as it was, still placed me in a position of dependency. I need to stand on my own before I can stand beside anyone else." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You're declining my offer to stay." "I'm deferring it," she corrected. "I need time, Vikram. It's time to finish my education. It's time to help my mother recover and become independent of my father. Time to discover who I am when I'm not defined by family obligation or financial necessity." Instead of disappointment, respect filled his gaze. "How long do you need?" "A year, maybe 2. He nodded slowly. "And after that?" "After that," she said, her heart racing with the boldness of what she was about to propose, "I'd like us to meet again. As equals. No arrangements, no obligations. Just 2 people who might discover they're better together than apart." For the first time since she'd known him, Vikram Malhotra smiled, fully, a transformation so complete it took her breath away. "I'll wait," he promised, not touching her, but standing close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "However long it takes." 2 years later, Nisha stood on the steps of her university, diploma in hand. Her mother, fully recovered and divorced from her father, beamed with pride beside her. She had done it, completed her education, helped establish her mother in a small but comfortable home of her own, and found work as a literary editor that fulfilled her passion for books. She hadn't seen Vikram in all that time, though they had exchanged letters, cautious at first, then increasingly open. Through words on paper, they had discovered each other anew, without the shadow of their initial arrangement coloring their perceptions. As the graduation crowd dispersed, she spotted a familiar figure waiting by the campus gates, violin case in hand. Her heart recognized him before her mind did not. The remote businessman who had once seemed carved from ice, but a man whose eyes held warmth and promise. "You came," she said simply. "I promised I would wait," he replied. She noticed The violin case? You still play the same melody? A smile touched his lips. No, I've composed a new one. It's called Nisha's Choice. I'd like to hear it someday. Someday soon, I hope. He hesitated, then added, I've been thinking about opening a music school. For children who can't afford instruments or lessons, would you consider helping me? Design the library? She laughed, recognizing his careful approach for what it was, an invitation back into his life on her terms. I'd like that, she said. Then, feeling bold, she added, but first, I think you should take me to dinner. A proper first date, don't you think? As they walked away together, Nisha reflected on the strange journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a sacrifice had transformed into salvation, not through him rescuing her, but through both of them learning to heal their broken places and find strength in vulnerability. Some melodies, it seemed, were worth waiting for.